het soloneles face voice csak white, his eyes wide with a sudden profound shock, looked onto me, looking right past my father's retired rank and my brother's polished uniform. H. snapped Theo rigid attention, a posture more severe than any general would receive. Oh my God, H. whispered, his voice barely audible. Mom, are you the widow of SEAL Team 9? My brother Mark and my father's voice froze. Their condescending smirks, the ones they'd been wearing all morning, vanished. They were replaced by a blank, schlotzkevet confusion. Widow. Mark stammered. Looking at your father. What is he talking about? They were completely, utterly lost. The reckoning had been building for years, but the fuse was truly lit. 2 days earlier. We were all at my father's home. Ostensibly planning our attendance for General Pace's retirement ceremony, a major event on the base. This was my father's word. My father, Colonel Robert Jensen, is a man completely and totally obsessed with his own legacy, which he so embodied entirely in his son. And then there was my brother, Lieutenant Mark Jensen, the family's eternal golden child, however his rank like a costume had been handed, not one had ever actually earned. My father was proudly polishing a metal on Mark's dress uniform, his voice booming with pride. Mark, you will about a very important person briefing with me. It is good for you Theo seen by the flag officers. His chest puffed out, already picturing his air, shaking hands, cementing the Jensen legacy. Then that heavy, dismissive gaze landed on me standing by the door. Catherine, he said, his tone laced with that familiar, gentle pity. Are you sure you're coming? It is a formal military affair, he gestured vaguely at me, as if my very presence was confusing. Your little desk job at the shipyard. Well, it doesn't really prepare you for this, Mark. Evert he echoes coughed. Yeah, Cat. Try not Theo bored had generous with stories about your spreadsheets. Maybe just wait in the car. I gripped my phone in my pocket, my knatzklash white. A familiar cold fury settled deep in my stomach. The same feeling I got when they forget my university. Honors convocation, but through Mark, a week-long part for passing a basic physical fitness test. My spreadsheets, I thought, were the kill capture logs for Operation Nightshade. They didn't know I wasn't just invited. I was requested. General Pace himself had asked for me Theo there, but I just smiled. That polite empty smile I perfected over 20 years. I there. Don't worry about me. They chuckled, thinking I was their tag alone, the civilian embarrassment. They had no idea I was the one General Pace had cleared for the command brief. Theo understand her reckoning that was coming, you have Theo understand her to live the voice living. In my family's word, I was shipyard cat. Sometimes just the admin. I was the footnote. I remember a family barbecue last summer. I zöszkámolt a brutal 72. hóshift, running on steel coffee and adrenaline. But I showed up. My brother Mark was holding court by the grill, beer in hand, waving around a frame certificate. It was a letter of appreciation. A thank you note. My father slinked his bottle against Mark's. Detest had Jensen legacy. H.E. bombed. Man in the arena. I was standing by the potato salad, just trying Theo fel human. I tried Theo join in. That is great, Mark. I actually just got a new certification myself. I started Theo say, my father didn't even turn around. H. just waved a hand dismissively. That is nice, honey. Mark, tell them about her life for your exercise. And just like that, I was invisible, erased. It was the story of my life. My master's degree was nice, while Mark's voice a real turning point. It was always like this, but shipyard wasn't my real life. My real life took place in a windowless room, a place my family couldn't even imagine. A skiff, a sensitive, compartment information facility. The only light came from glowing tactical maps and data streams. The voice cold, silent, and recycled. This was my arena. My boss wasn't my fighter. My boss was commander, a grizzled, brilliant strategist who didn't care about my last name, only my last analysis. He trusted me. And in our world, trust is the only currency that matters. I was in that very room just hours before that barbecue. The tension was sick. Reese slid a headset over, his eyes locked on a blinking red dot. Cat, he said, his voice flat. Este 9 is walking into a trap. The asset is compromised. Inteles bed. What est call? There's no committee. There's no let me heads with my dad. There is only the call. It didn't blink. Authorize vidoves protocol, I said, my voice a skölmashiz. Rerouted dem teox fill point gamma. I want oiuri eserbírt spinning up neu. I am redlighting their primary target. Get me a direct line teot ha team lead. Re zoist noidid. Ha didn't question it. Ha executed. In that room, my word voice final. That call sign, vidoves protocol, voice mine. Ites what he sales called me, noit cat, noit he admin. They called me he video. It wasn't because they lost someone. It was because my real job was primary fleet ops intelligence handler for Shell Team 9. My strategic planning voice so lethal, so precise that I made videos of the enemy. I built the box. They closed the lid. They didn't just respect me, they feared my authority. Because when I made a call, it meant their lives. I go from that word of life and this back to my father's house, and heavy plus voice staggering. He cornered me once in the kitchen. That same look of pity in his eyes. You know, Catherine, I am proud you work for the Navy. It is good. But Mark, they say like he voice explaining a complex truth. He is on the front lines. He is a warrior-like voice. Your support role is vital. But you have to understand, it is just not the same. It just nodded. What voice is supposed to say? Dad, your warrior son front line is a supply depot, and my support role just saved an entire team. 4 years, I let them believe it. It was easier. It kept my words separate, safe from their judgment. But when Mark tried to use his own drink to humiliate me at General Paces retirement, he wasn't just insulting me. He was breaking protocol in front of me who knew my real sign. It was time to close the gap between their narrative and my reality. The night before the ceremony, I sat in my quiet apartment, and I felt still the usual sting of their words, the hot pulse of anger that always followed one of their dismissals. It was just gone. It was replaced by a cold, hurt clarity. I wasn't planning revenge. I wasn't setting some elaborate, intricate trap. I just made a decision. I was going to stop hiding. I would simply show up as myself and I would follow actual protocol. I knew with the certainty of a well-run intelligence OP that they would bet heavens to defy it. Their arrogance was a predictable variable. I could already sneak playing out in my mind. I saw Mark, his chest puffed out in his dress uniform, trying to pull rank. He hadn't earned to get into the very important person command briefing. An area he wasn't remotely cleared for. I saw my father leaning heavily on his retired status, talking about legacy and old times Theo by pesa rule has thought voice beneath him. They so protocol something for little people, not for them. I picked up my phone and made one call Theo commanderre, my Theo, WHO voice handling the high-level liaison for general patches event. I said, keeping my voice level, thus confirming. I amount he access list for the OP center brief, correct? Their voice oppose on the line. Jure noit zoist on the list, video, said, his voice grand all business. Jure presenting the operation night the after action brief. General Pace insisted. Posed again, sensing the real question. Why? My family will be there, I said, my voice flat. They are not on the list. The silence on the line was long, but it wasn't a confusion. It was understanding. I could practically hear the slow, grim smile spread across his face. Understood, Mom, said. The respect in his tone, a shield. Protocol will be strictly enforced. That was all I needed. The trap wasn't a complicated. It was those their pride versus a system they didn't understand. And they knew exactly how the post commander was. Colonel Evans, amon WHO had szorolna a joint task force with me for 6 brutal months. Amon WHO intimately knew my call sign, WHO had seen my strategic work, but had never once seen my Phyllis. While they were shining their shoes and pressing their uniforms, I packed my bag. Those jeans, a simple blouse. I looked at my nondescript civilian duty the one that got me onto the shipyard. Then I tucked my real bad deep into my wallet, the classified red-bordered one, the one that spoke a language they wouldn't even read. I didn't need the complex strategy. I just needed to obey myself in their word for the first time. I drove to the base, my familiar condescending text pinging on my phone. They had no idea they weren't just walking into a retirement part. They were walking into my office. We arrived at the entrance to the Secure Command Operation Center, and the atmosphere was thick with authority. The hallway was a sea of dress uniforms, flag officers, admirals, and generals, all speaking in the low, serious tones of men WHO were used to being listened to. And then there was OS. My father, Colonel Jensen, Sr., and my brother, Lieutenant Mark Jensen, were absolutely pining. They moved through the crowd like they owned the place, soaking in the ambient power they belonged, and, in my jeans, and a simple blouse, was the visible stain on their perfect picture. My father's eyes landed on me, and his face tightened with a familiar, weary disgust. Pulled me aside, his voice a sharp hiss. Catherine, for havenes szaki. You look like a contractor. Looked around as if afraid someone would see OS talking. Just in the back and please don't embarrass OS. I felt that old familiar coldness settle in my chest. This was the man WHO hadn't bothered to come to my master's degree convocation because Mark had a minor baseball game and devised the embarrassment. I just nodded, my face a polite blank mask. Mark, ever the opportunist, immediately spotted the main event. A heavy reinforced steel door with a glowing red sign above it. Restricted area. Oops, briefing. Active TS clearance only. His eyes lit up. This was it, the inner shantum. This was where the men in the arena, as my father loved to say, when Theo do their secret important work. Turned to me, a smug, condescending smirk spreading across his face, and made sure to say it loud enough for the people nearby to hear. This is where the real work happens, cat. You wait out here with the spouses, okay? Try to look busy. Actually winked at me, then turned and marched up to the young Marine surgeon standing guard. Puffed out his chest. Every inch the legacy. Lieutenant Martin. My father and I are here for the briefing. The Moirin Sörzönt, WHO looked about 19 and completely unimpressed, held up a tablet. He tapped her screen a few times, then looked up with a blank professional face. Sure, your name is not on the access list. He glanced at my folder. Neither is Colonel Jensenes. This area is restricted. My father's face turned a dangerous shade of crimson. This wasn't just a denial. It was a public humiliation. Mark Zoe scoffed like the sergeant voice a child who they made a silly mistake. Son, he said, his voice dripping with condescension. This is Colonel Robert Jensen, retired, and I am an active lieutenant. We are General Patch's personal guests. Now you, step aside, my father chimed in, his voice, a low grovel that used to make me flinch. Sergeant, you clearly don't understand the meaning of legacy. It's old to listen to it anymore. It was so pathetic. I let out a slow, quiet breath and stepped forward, moving past my spluttering father and my indignant brother. The sergeant immediately shifted, putting a firm hand up to bar my way. He was polite, but his eyes were still. Mom, this area is restricted to active personnel only. He eyed my jeans with a practiced neutral expression. I gave him a small tired smirk. Still, he said. He blinked, just a flicker of confusion. Which branch? Navy Fleet Ops. Before he could even process that, the secured door hissed open and a man stepped out. A full colonel, his chest covered in ribbons. He saw the commotion and his brow furrowed. Mark immediately pounced, seeing his salvation. Colonel, thank God. Tell your man here. But the colonel wasn't looking at Mark. His eyes went right past my brother, past my father, and landed directly on me, and he froze. It was Colonel Evans, a man I knew only through encrypted video calls at 3 óra in the morning and curt all caps messages on secured channels. He had never seen my face, but he saw something. He thought one person WHO shouldn't be here. Or maybe one person WHO should. His entire military bearing, decades of command and control, snapped into place. He went from relaxed to rigid parade ground attention in a millisecond. His face drained of all color. My God, he whispered, his voice hoarse, filled with a sudden dawning that silenced the entire hallway. Mom, I didn't know you were wait. His eyes widened as the pieces clicked into place. Are you the widow of SEAL Team 9? Absolute silence. You could hear a pin drop on the marble floor. My father's jaw dropped open. Mark's face Zoe's crumpled. It was a mask of pure, unadulterated, childish disbelief. What? Mark stammered, looking from the colonel to me and back again. Widow, cat, what is this? Datesh Zoe's datesh a call sign. Datesh a legend. I ignored him. I looked directly at Colonel Evans, my entire demeanor shifting from shipyard kettéot hevoman hánu metéobe. All business. I am Colonel, I said, my voice clear and carrying into sudden quiet. Is General Pace ready for my brief on Operation Night Hade? Evans blinked as if I slapped him. Yes, Mom. Right this way. My apologies for the delay. He grabbed the heavy secure door and held it open for me. The young Marine sergeant, his eyes now wide as saucers, snapped to attention for me. I walked through the door into the cold, dark room very beyond, but I paused for a second and looked back at my stunned, speechless family. I gave them that same empty, polite smile. You two wait here, I said. This area is restricted. My father had spent my entirely fetishing at the importance of rank. In the end, it only took 6 words from a stranger for him to finally learn WHO ranked WHO. Inside that room, the word shifted. Their voice called, and the only sound was the low hum of servers. I stood there in my scenes in front of a ushaped table of generals and admirals and debriefed them. I spoke about Operation Nightshade, about signal intercepts, asset compromises, and kill chain authorizations. I used the language of my realife, and they listened. They didn't just listen. They leaned in. They asked sharp, focused questions. General Pace, among my father spoke of with near religious, nodded slowly, his eyes fixed on me, soaking in every word. In that room, I wasn't a shipyard cat. I wasn't a admin. I voiced the expert. I voiced the authority. After the formal brief, General Pace asked me to stay. I shook my hand, his grip firm and his respect palpable. The widow, I said, his voice quiet. Your analysis saved ST9. The country is in your debt for that. I then presented me with a small, heavy box. Inside was a classified summation, I could never ever show my family. I held it in my palm, its weight a stark contrast to the flimsy framed letter of appreciation my brother had paraded around at that barbecue. This voice real. This voice earned in silence. Later, I caught a glimpse of them through the reinforced glass of the command center door. My father and my brother. They were those standing awkwardly in the public hallway. Two more uniforms in a sea of people completely ignored. They were outsiders, their faces a mixture of confusion, humiliation, and a dawning terrible understanding. They had been so desperate to get in and they had been rendered completely irrelevant. They weren't a Jensen legacy. They were those two men waiting by the door. A year later, things are different. My word is different. Teplek on my door doesn't széket. It says Ops Commander Kudson. I lead my own task force now. I am no longer just a voice on a secure line. I am the one WHO builds the operations. My office overlooks a boiling state of the art command floor. This is my true home. My new family is the team that sits at that table with me. It is Commander WHO now works for me. His grizzled smile, a sign of pure professional respect. It is the new lead for ST9 WHO calls me mom and means it. This is a family built on competence, on mutual trust, and on a fierce shared loyalty. It is not the dysfunctional obligation I grew up with. It is real. This morning, an envelope was on my desk. It was heavy, cream-colored personal stationery, not standard military mail. The handwriting on the front was shaky, but I recognized it instantly. It was from my father. I sat there for a long time just looking at it. I didn't feel dread or anger or even curiosity. I just felt distant. I opened it. The letter inside was short. The handwriting even shaky. Catherine, it read. I have made inquiries. The few things I was clear to learn about your service are significant. The man at the general ceremony spoke of you in terms I have only ever heard used for true heroes. I was wrong. I read that line twice. I was wrong. Words I had waited my entire childhood to hear. Words that I realized no longer held any power over me. My definition of legacy was too small. I continued, I am proud. Colonel Richardson read. I read the letter one more time. I felt no triumph, no forgiveness, just closure. It was an acknowledgement, a correction to a foil, but it didn't define me. My peace was no longer tied to his apology. His pride was no longer something I needed to earn. I calmly folded the letter, slid it into a simple desk drawer labeled personal, and closed it. My screen lit up. A new critical operation voice pending authorization. I turn back Theo my work, my focus absolute. My brother wanted Theo inherit a legacy, and my father wanted Theo bestow one. They both learned that a true legacy isn't on your uniform. It isn't have work you do in silence and have acknowledged in public. If you've ever had your quiet competence overlooked, share your story in the comments. In this community, we always recognized her real operator in her room.